page 342 above. Not expanding in Hod, expanding in Yesod, not expanding in Malchut. And then when Malchut is also refined, it doesn't expand in Malchut, returning as in the beginning. What returns as in the beginning? Again, expanding in Chokhmah, in Binah, in Chesed, in Tiferet, in Hod, and in Malchut, expanding in Malchut. It's already expanding in Malchut. Returning as in the beginning, inner light. He tells us when it does not expand in Keter, meaning that phase 3 and phase 2 in it were refined. And the light of Keter, the light that was in the vessel of Keter, meaning that shone on 3-2, returned to its origin, then the power of the authority of Keter stopped, of the vessel of Keter. The light of Chokhmah, its authority, control was on the vessel of Keter, while 3 was its in phase, but 3 was already refined. And with 2, he does not object. Why? Because in 2 of coarseness, there is in a degree. And then its residue descended to Chokhmah. What is the residue, we should say? 2 Aleph, 2, 1. If I say that in Keter he had 3-2, then in his degree, there should be 2-1. What? We'll see later, this time. I'm asking a different question. We learn that in each degree, there are ta'amim and nekudot, tastes and dots. So there should be 4, 3, 2, 4 of 3, 2, 3 of 2, 2 of 2, 1 of 2. About Malchut, he doesn't speak. 1, 2, that should be. So what does he speak of? Only Patsuf Galgalta. It's a different order. It doesn't speak of itself. It must, with respect to itself, it must always be there. We learn that there are ta'amim, taste, and the bottom 9. And he doesn't speak of, he explains according to what? Patsuf Galgalta. From there he measures. This is why there's a different measurement here. It turns out that now, Patsuf Galgalta, Keter, had 4 of coarseness. Patsuf Ab, 3 of coarseness in the vessel of Keter. And Patsuf Sag, 2 of coarseness in the vessel of Keter. Then, its residue descended to Chokhmah, meaning 2-1. And the vessels of the illumination of Gal in the Rosh Toch Sof, in the 7 Sefirot of Zaranpin, you find that they attain their authority, their control, which are Chesed, Tiferet, Hod, and Malchut. And Malchut receives her phase 4. Here, when we say expanding in Keter, fine. Not expanding in Keter, it's already been refined. There, in the world of Nikodim, what do I learn? That 1 Rosh had, came out, the second of clothing, the second Rosh, Keter, 2 of clothing. The 3rd Rosh, Abba and Ima, 1 of coarseness. And here we're not talking about Roshim, about heads. We're talking only about Gufim, bodies. There, we don't speak at all about the Guf. We can say that because there was a small illumination. Again, there too we learn that the tastes expanded. From there, the taste, the bottom 7 of Abba, Ve'ima, and Ima expanded. And they took the vessels of Sag, just as Sag takes the vessels of Ab, and Ab takes the vessels of Galgalta. Here, we're not speaking about the Roshim, the heads. What do we speak about? How the goof, the body, comes to the Keter. That too is difficult. 1. If with respect to the clothing, we learn that the Rosh of the lower one clothes the Chagat of the upper one, then how does he say Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, which are vessels of Keter of the goof, but they clothe the Rosh, not the goof? It's as though it implies here that he's speaking of the goof of Ab, which takes the vessels of the goof of Galgalta. According to the order of clothing, it doesn't work out this way. Also, in Sag, we should say that it took the goof of Ab. Who? The goof of Sag. Clothing. We don't learn it this way. Who clothes over the goof of Ab, the Rosh of Sag? That too is missing here, that clarification. It's one of the most difficult things. He doesn't speak at all about the Rosh of Ab. So what does he say? The goof of Galgalta that moved to Ab. Which Ab? Rosh of Ab or goof of Ab? When it expands and doesn't expand, then I'm speaking about the goof of Ab, that it's refined, not the Rosh of Ab. The Rosh of Ab, there's no refinement in it, and I need to start speaking of the Rosh of Galgalta. Where does the light of Keter stand? Under Malchut of Galgalta. Many details. Getting into details, he doesn't speak about that. The question is, when does the clash of inner and surrounding happen in Parzuf Galgalta? I'm asking. Precisely when he descended below the Tabor, or when Tabor does not want to receive. Fine. So I will say the same thing about Parzuf Sag. When the Tabor doesn't want to receive, there was a clash of inner and surrounding. This is one. We learn another discernment. What expanded from Tabor downwards? What was the expansion from Tabor and below? I'm asking. The 10 Sefirot of the Siyum, of the end. Except he comes and says something new. Although it is only below Tabor of Sag, nevertheless, since it comes to fill the Nehi of Ak, he himself, he is a degree in and of himself. He himself, the below Tabor of Sag, is divided into a complete Parzuf, Rosh Toch Sof. Above the Tabor is called Rosh Toch, and Parzuf Tanhi of Ak is below. It's called Nehi of Parzuf Tanhi of Ak, Nehi of Sag. So we are seeing something new, and about that too he doesn't elaborate. Meaning, where should be the clash? in the taboo. He's got no connection with what expands from taboo downwards. And what expands from taboo downwards should be in itself. And it divides into Rosh Toch Sof. And where was the parsa? Between Atzilut and Bria? Specifically in the taboo of Partzuf Tanhi of Sag. So we have two things here. What I will say that it departed from taboo downwards, this I can say because of the second restriction. Why? Because of the second restriction. Since they expanded over all 10 Sefirot, and now the 10 Sefirot cannot receive because they were restricted. So it had to depart. The light had to depart from everything. And a new light will come, which will shine only in the vessels of the anterior, the vessels of bestowal. So I need to say, above taboo is a different matter. That there was a clash of inner and surrounding. What I explained below taboo. What is the connection between that and surrounding light? So I will say this is what he says. The second restriction caused the light to depart. I don't want to say, there are two things here. One does not concern the other. So we need to begin page 341, column 1 below. From now we will explain. So what did we just finish? At what stage of not expanding in Keter? What was in Keter? 3-2. So that was refined, and its residue descends to the vessel of Chokhmah. You find that now it expands in a Chokhmah. Now we will explain the zone of the vessel of Chokhmah. What are they? In Ab, there was Keter 4-3 and Chokhmah 3-2. But in Sag, that was in Keter 3-2, what remained in the vessel of Chokhmah, we should say 2-1. We'll see. So he says this. Now we will explain the zone of the vessel of Chokhmah, because the zone in the vessel of Keter copulate and beget the male and female after them, like them. The male is extended from the form of the male, meaning Vak without Gal. Because the light of Chokhmah that stands on the Malchut of the Rosh of Ab, its posterior is downward toward the emanated beings in the Guf. Hence, in the male of Keter, there is only Vak without Rosh. Therefore, in the male that is born from it, has only Vak without Gal. The female of Keter too gives of her shape to the female that is born from her, which is the light of Bina. And then the vessel of Keter is refined and turns her anterior downwards, meaning she refines into phase 1 and gives these three lights to the vessel of Chokhmah, which are the male, which are Vak of Chokhmah, and the female, which is the light of Bina, and the level of phase 1, which is the light of Chesed, which contains the bottom 7 Sefirot, meaning completely, as was explained in Atzilut, in the emanation of Zon of the vessel of Bina, with Patzuf Ab. And the whole difference is that here the degrees descended, and all the phases of light in the vessel of Bina of Ab are present here in the vessel of Chokhmah. And the vessel of Bina is incorporated here with the vessel of Chokhmah. However, in Bina, there remained the records of Zon while she was in Patzuf Ab, prior to the second departure. But they do not merit a name, since they are equal phases with the Zon in the vessel of Chokhmah. He's telling us that here, when it expanded in Chokhmah, it was as in Patzuf Ab, which expanded in Bina. Meaning, we learned about Patzuf Ab. What was the order? That in Keter, there was 4-3. And then it was refined into, and then 4-3 in Keter was refined into 3-2 in Chokhmah. This is called not expanding in Keter and expanding in Chokhmah. Then we learned that the 3 of clothing was refined. So it would be in the vessel of Chokhmah. And 2 twos remained. And then we learned that there was a coupling from the 2 twos, and the level of light emerged. And it took the offspring from who? Bina. You find that the coupling that was made, the coupling that elicited the level of light on the 2 twos in the vessel of Chokhmah descended to the vessel of Bina, which is called Vak and male, because he says the coupling that was made in the upper one descends to the lower one is called Vak. And also Bina as desire and mercy. You find that it's called Vak and it's called male because of the light, from the perspective of the light. We also learned that in Bina, there is the phase of female from the records that remained in her from the first expansion, which is called Galgalta. Now, in Bina, she has, after Chokhmah was refined from the 3 of clothing into 2 of clothing, there's a coupling on the 2 twos, and the level of that degree Bina took. This is one light. It's called male. And what is the female? From the clothing. Then the vessel of Chokhmah was refined from 2 to 1 and also gave to Bina. Now in Bina there are 3 lights: Vak of the male, Gal of the female, which is a record of the second clothing, and the light of phase 1, which is Bina and its offspring. Clear? Now, in Patzuf Sag, when we speak, when we say that 3-2 was not in the vessel of Chokhmah as in Ab, but rather she was in the vessel of Keter of Sag, so he says this, that there was a coupling in the vessel of Keter on 3-2. I cannot say that the three of clothing was refined into two. And then there was a coupling on the two twos, as we said in Patzuf Ab, in the vessel of Chokhmah. Since the clothing, since he asks, why do we not say that the four of Keter was refined before the three of coarseness? And in Chokhmah, the clothing was refined before the coarseness. He explains that since 4 has no coarseness in the degree, all of its coarseness is what it took from the 3 of coarseness. Hence, before 3 of coarseness, it cannot be refined. Whereas the 3 of clothing that there is in the vessel of Chokhmah, there is 3 of coarseness in the degree, more or less. So it can be refined. It therefore turns out that in the vessel of Keter of Sarg, which does not have 3 of coarseness in a degree, and all its coarseness is extended only from what it receives from 2 of coarseness. So 3 of clothing cannot be refined before 2 of coarseness. It therefore turns out that we should say that the coupling that was done in the vessel of Keter, when the level emerges, there is no difference whatsoever between that and the vessel of Chokhmah, where the coupling was on the 2 twos, and here on 3 2. Accordingly, the coupling that was in the vessel of Keter on 3 2, which he compares to the vessel of Chokhmah, is not 100% identical. Next, then he says that he gave to the vessel of Chokhmah that light, which is called male-female. How? From the 3 of clothing, it's male, it's a male. The 2 of coarseness is a female. It turns out that it is extended in the level of light from Keter to Chokhmah, and this in itself incorporates a male and a female from the 3 of clothing and the 2 of coarseness. And there, in Ab, he teaches that the coupling that was leaning, that was done in the vessel of Chokhmah on the 2 twos, he regards it as one level male. He doesn't say that.
נעבור לחלק הבא של השיעור.